Hello students, again I welcome you all for my new video, and today in this video I am going to explain a poem named Childhood written by Marcus Nathan. Now before starting with the poem, let's talk about the author Marcus Nathan. Marcus Jussac, who was born on 23rd June 1975, is an Australian writer with Australian and German roots. He is best known for the book Thief and the Messenger, two novels, notable awards, Margaret A. Edward Award. Education of Marcus Jussac was University of New South Wales, and born Marcus Frank Jussac, that is, I have already told, 23rd June 1975. Introduction of the poem. Childhood is written by Marcus Nathan. In this poem, the poet thinks over his lost childhood. He wonders about the moment where he lost the innocence and realized that the world is not what he seemed it to be. He recalls when his thoughts changed and he realized the hypocrisy of the people around him. He finally settled down to the idea that his childhood went to some forgotten place and is hidden in the face of an innocent infant. Theme of the poem. The poem Childhood focuses on the theme of the loss of innocence. In this poem, the poet Marcus Nathan wonders when and where he lost his childhood. In this quest to find the moment he grew up, Marcus highlights the innocence of faith he lost even as he gained rational individuality. Summary of the poem. First of all, the poet thinks and wonders about the end of his childhood. He thinks where his childhood came to an end. He wonders that was it the day on which he was no longer 11 years of age. Another option could be the time when the author came to the realization that hell and heaven didn't exist and one could not find them in geography. So, this was the time when the author could make a distinct between reality and fantasy. The poet comes to the realization that they are imaginary places that have no existence in this world. Once again, the poet again repeats the same question about losing his childhood. Now, the poet wonders that was it the time when he began to view the world with a different perception. Naturally, when humans grow older, their perception of the world changes. However, the poet seems to be deeply affected by it. Furthermore, the poet came to the realization that adults are hypocrites. This is because the adults are not what they appears or seems to be. According to the author, adults preach about love, but their behavior is not so loving. So the author believes that a double-faced nature is displayed by the adults. So was this the time when his childhood go? Moving on, the poet deliberates on the same question regarding the loss of his childhood. Furthermore, the author asks himself about the various possibilities. Moreover, the poet thinks about the day when he came to the realization that his mind was his own. This was the time when the poet came to the realization that he can use his mind in any way he wants. Also, the poet realizes that his thoughts were his own and no one can affect them. One can say that the poet became aware that he can produce his own thoughts and he had a free will. This was a time when the poet became aware of his own individuality and personality. So was that the day where his childhood became lost. In the last stanza, the poet becomes remorseful about his lost childhood. It seems the poet has a desire to live his childhood once more. He concludes that his childhood had vanished into a forgotten place from which it can never return. The poet cherishes his own lost innocence. This is the type of innocence that one can only see in a baby's face. He only has sweet childhood memories which would fade away rather quickly. According to the poet, the innocence of childhood remains only until one is an infant. Now let's start with the explanation of the poem Childhood. Now here begins with the poem. When did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be 11? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and therefore could not be? Was that the day? In the above lines, the poet wonders about when his childhood came to an end. He asked himself, was it the day he was no longer 11 years old? Was it the day when he realized that hell and heaven existed and yet could not be found in geography or on the map? He realized they are imaginary places and that actually do not exist in this world. Second stanza. When did my childhood go? Was it the time I realized that adults were not all they seemed to be? They talked of love and preached of love, but did not act so lovingly. Was that the day? In the above stanza, the poet again repeats the same question about when did his childhood go. He wonders about the day when he started seeing the world with a new perception that adults are hypocrites and are not how they seem to be. The adults who talked of love and preached of love and yet never behaved so lovingly. They are double faced in reality. Was that the day when his childhood go? Third stanza. When did my childhood go? Was it when I found my mind was really mine? To use whichever way I choose, but my own and my alone. Was that the day? In the third stanza, the poet deliberates on the same question about when he lost his childhood. He asked himself about the possibilities. He wonders about the day he realized that his mind was his own and could use it the way he wants. When he realized that he could produce his own thought, which were not found by anyone. When he sensed his own individuality and a separate personality, was that the day he lost his childhood? Fourth stanza. Where did my childhood go? It went to some forgotten place that's hidden in an infant face. That's all I know. In the last stanza, the poet remorses about his last childhood. He concludes that his childhood had gone to some forgotten place which will never come back. He cherished his innocence, which vanished now and could be only seen in baby's face. He only has sweet memories of his childhood, which would soon fade away. He also conveyed a message that the innocence of childhood says till the time one is an infant and that is all he knows. So, Here are some poetic devices which are used in the poem. The first one is alliteration. In this figure of speech, a number of words having the same first consonant sound occur close together in a series. For example, hell and heaven, a repetition of the same word alphabet, that is H and H, that and day, my mind, whichever way, etc. All these words combinations are used in this poem. Antithesis. This figure of speech refers to the placement of opposing or contrasting ideas together. This emphasizes the difference between the two ideas and adds interest to writing. It can be seen in the use of words hell and heaven. So students, here we finishes with the explanation of the poem Childhood. Hope the video is clear. Thank you. Be safe, be healthy.